It can be extremely difficult to mention to someone that you know that you're having trouble in your relationship. How do you do that? How do you start the conversation? In this video, I'm going to give you 3 practical tips to help you to raise it with someone that you know and trust, and how you can actually begin that conversation to move forward to where you want to be. G'day, I'm Cheney. I live in Sydney, Australia. I am an actor and a yoga teacher. I worked as a nurse for many years. I also work as an actor in the corporate training world. And it's been my journey and my mission to understand humans, and that's what I continually do. So the reason I make these videos is to try and assist women and to empower women across the world, especially women who have anxiety like me, and to give them an opportunity to live the life that they really want to lead. Please consider subscribing to my channel. I'm on a journey to reach 1 million subscribers across the world. Click the thumbs up button and leave a comment. I love to hear your stories. Here we go. I know through my own experience with having been in some abusive relationships, or in relationships that weren't necessarily abusive but they didn't work for some reason, how hard it can be to raise the topic. You know, if you've said to your friends and your family that you really like this person and that you are in love with them even, or perhaps you've moved in together, or you've been together for a significant period of time, it can feel really embarrassing and sometimes a bit shameful if your relationship isn't working. I was married for many years and I found it really difficult to start the conversation and actually talk to someone about how I was feeling and when things weren't going well. I'm now happily divorced, and I kind of owe that to, in some ways, to the people that I spoke to. The first thing you need to do if you suspect you're having trouble in your relationship is to acknowledge that something's not quite right. You might feel like there's a feeling in the pit of your stomach, or you might feel like you can't raise this particular issue with your partner. And ideally, you know, everyone says the basis of a healthy relationship is communication. Sometimes though, it's the communication that's broken down, and for some reason you can't talk to your partner about your certain issue. So for example, for me, one of my exes, if I raised something difficult with him, he would either shut down, and I would have a great deal of difficulty trying to have a conversation with him in the first place, or he would get very angry and aggressive. So it meant for me that I either didn't raise things, or I knew that I was going to be in for a struggle or a fight. So this is the perfect scenario to talk to somebody else. If you've tried every avenue, and I certainly had, it's time to bring someone else into the picture. So acknowledging that perhaps you're in a place where it's not something you can deal with by yourself. And it's important to mention here that in this acknowledgement stage, this isn't about trying to solve the problem. So it's very easy for us to jump into problem-solving mode, and our brains love to do that because our brains hate to have a vacuum of here's a problem but we have no solution. So you try to create a solution, and that can sort of make things harder actually. And if you do struggle with anxiety, that can make things a whole lot worse. So the acknowledgement stage is not about solving problems. It's merely saying, yes, that's an issue, and agreeing with your body that there is something that's not quite right. If you're not quite sure whether there's a problem or not in your relationship, one question that can be really helpful to ask yourself is, do I feel relaxed around this person? Do I feel like I can really be myself and just sort of allow the true me to come out when I'm around this person? Sometimes if you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells, or you're very careful about everything that you say and do, I would suggest that perhaps things aren't quite right, and it's a perfect chance for you to talk to somebody else about it. Step number 2 is choosing somebody that you trust. I would really encourage you to think of someone who has been trustworthy in the past. So it might be someone who you've told a secret to and they've kept it, or it might be someone who you know they're a good listener, and when you sit down and talk to them, they don't make you feel silly or they don't tell you instantly what to do, but they just listen to where you're at. If it's a friend or family member that cares about you and loves you, then you've really got a good chance there of creating a safe environment where you can really express yourself and allow yourself to say the things that are on your mind. For me, when things got difficult and quite challenging in our marriage, I spoke to a friend of mine who had gone through a very messy breakup a year or two before. So she was someone who understood how hard breakups can be, and she was someone who was willing to listen to me and hear my side of the story. And let's be honest, she was someone who was going to take my side. So she wasn't going to defend him and tell me that I was silly and that he was right. And I needed to hear that. I needed to hear someone had my back. If you're someone who thinks, oh, I don't want to burden another person with my problems, I completely understand that. I've felt that before as well. The thing is, if you talk to someone about your problems and they're able to help you, that's actually a gift for them, because they are a caring person as well, and they would love to be able to offer you some assistance or some help. So see that as an opportunity to actually give them the chance to give to you. If you're finding it particularly hard to think of someone who you can trust, or perhaps you're in a situation where you're not really nearby, you might be removed from your home or your family or friends, you could consider going onto an online forum for women and talk to some people in various chat rooms about what it is that you're going through. If at all possible though, I would suggest picking up the phone and talking to someone. If your partner has mentioned to you that you're not allowed to talk to someone about your problems, that is a sure sign that you need to talk to someone about your problems. I had a situation with one of my exes where he didn't want me to talk to anybody about our relationship, and I found that really stifling, because my relationship with him, although he argued that that was a private relationship, and yes, it is, sure, it's also my relationship, so it's my life that it's happening to, and if you are not allowed to talk about what's happening in your life, then that is someone putting very tight constraints around you, and I think it's really important to be able to talk to someone that you trust about what is going on in your life, particularly if you're having troubles. Sometimes when people are very controlling, what they want to do is take you away from your friends and your family, divide and conquer, so keep you isolated so that you're not being influenced by other people, and then they have more control over you. And it's about their anxiety and their control. The other thing I would mention is that if you choose not to have a conversation with someone, what is the cost of that? So what is the cost to you, not financially necessarily, but emotionally? What is the cost to you of not having a conversation with someone about the situation you're in? Step number 3 is just arrange a time and a place to talk to someone. It doesn't have to be particularly formal. You just might say, hey, can we catch up for a coffee or something? You don't have to make it sound all big and scary. I just dropped around to my friend's place one day. I actually hadn't even planned to mention it, but when I was there, my ex, he rang me and he asked me what time I would be home, and that in itself isn't the problem, but she asked me when I got off the phone how I was going, and that's when I told her a whole lot of the things that had been happening in our relationship, and it gave me the outlet and the opportunity to speak about some of the concerns that I had. I would recommend that you just start by telling a story. So if you've got a friend or a family member that are willing to listen to you, that you can just start by saying as something that's happened to you in the past, or something that you've found difficult with your current partner, and just see where it goes from there. You don't need to solve it. I think that's the main thing to keep in mind. This is just the beginning of the conversation, so just start the conversation. Here are some ideas for ways that you could begin. Would you mind if I talked to you about my relationship with... Can I get your opinion on what is going on in my relationship? Do you have a moment to listen to a few issues I'm having with... Remember, the fact that you're having problems in your relationship is completely normal. In fact, it's unusual if you're not. So I have had this situation where I said to my ex, I think we're having troubles in our relationship. And he said, no, we're not. Which tells me that he was either blissfully unaware of the issues that I had been raising with him, or he 100% was ignoring it and did not want to hear about it. I suspect the latter. So that just means that it is definitely time to raise it with someone. If you're trying to think of a story to tell them or to start with, try and think of a story that evoked some kind of emotion in you. So maybe you felt afraid, or you felt resentful or sad or guilty or hurt or frustrated, and just tell them the story of what happened from beginning to end. And if you can, throw in some comments like, I felt this when he did that, and just see where it goes from there. If you're finding step 3 really difficult, I would encourage you to do some writing. Write down how you're feeling, write down a story that happened, write down what it is that you want, or what the kind of relationship is that you want, and just get those words moving in your head. You might find that's an easier step to go through to the point of actually talking to someone out loud about it. The most important part of talking to your friend or family member is to feel heard, not to solve the problem. And you can even say that to them if they start going, well, maybe you could do X, Y, or Z. You can say, I actually just need to talk about it. I don't want you to tell me what I have to do. Sometimes people will jump to, well, you have to end it with him, you have to break up with him. And that's not really helpful, because that's your choice. You can decide that when you need to. But at the moment, if you can just start the conversation and get it going, then you can work out what to do from there. The main thing is that you've got the ball rolling. So in conclusion, the 3 steps are: acknowledge what you're going through, choose a friend or family member who you're going to talk to, and start the conversation. If you're finding that 3rd step really, really hard, I would encourage you to write it down, write down as much as you can. You can write it down on a piece of scrap paper and then throw it in the bin. You can write it in a journal, you can write it on your computer and then delete it. Whatever you choose to do, but try and get it out of your head and onto paper or onto a screen, so that the words are flowing, the words are starting to flow. Because when your brain feels a bit messy, and especially if you've got a partner who confuses you sometimes, makes you feel like, am I going mad? Is this wrong? Am I the baddie here? And all those questions, it's really good to try and get down on paper what it is that you're feeling. Please consider subscribing and joining me on my journey as I reach 1 million subscribers. Give me a like if you enjoyed this video, and also leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts.